Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're looking at the pen tool basics in Illustrator. Now I know most people really hate the pen tool when they get started, and I'm hoping that I can demystify it for you so that you'll feel just a little bit happier using it. But before we begin, I have more Illustrator training at Skillshare.com. When you sign up for Skillshare, you get access to thousands of classes there, including over 250 of mine. In the description below is a Skillshare coupon for you, which is at least as good as the current Skillshare offer, and typically mine will be better. I also have Illustrator training at Udemy.com, and again in the description below are referral links for every one of those courses. Please feel free to share these with family, friends and co-workers. But let's swing back to Illustrator and see if we can make some headway into learning the pen tool. The first thing I'm going to do is actually go and select the pen tool, so just make sure that you have clicked on that. And we don't want to fill at this stage, so I'm going to turn off the fill. So I'm just working with a stroke line, and I'm going to increase the stroke a little bit so it'll be a bit easier for you to see it. Now to start, we're going to make some loops, so just some nice curls across the screen in Illustrator. It's a really good place to start. So the first trick to know is that if you just click, you're going to make a point, and it's going to be a sort of straight line from that point onwards. Let me just undo that. And if you want to make curves, you're going to click and drag. So you're going to press down with the left mouse button where you want to start, and you're going to drag and then let go. So you're going to end up with this sort of curve thing happening. Let me just undo that because I want to be a little bit more careful in making my curve. What I'm going to do is click and drag, and before I let go, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. And that just makes sure that I'm dragging down in a perfect vertical direction, or a 45-degree, or horizontal. So it's just going to snap, and I want to go vertical. So as soon as I'm where I want to be, I'll just let go the left mouse button and then let go the Shift key. Now I've got this sort of rubber band showing, which is showing me where I'm about to head, and I'm going to go all the way across to about here. I'm going to click and drag and stop. I've still got my finger on the left mouse button. I'm going to add the Shift key so I'm going in a perfectly vertical direction, and I'm going to make sure that these handles on this line, the two sort of dots at the end, are pretty much in line, because that's going to give me a nice smooth curve. I'll let go the left mouse button and then I'll let go the Shift key. Now this rubber band is showing me which direction we're headed in, so you can see that we've got a nice sort of curve that's about to happen. I'll go to the next point. I'm just using the smart guides to pretty much line things up here. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm just aiming for something that's going to be a nice sort of sweeping curve. Click and drag downwards, add the Shift key so that we're going in a perfectly vertical direction. Try and line those anchor points up. When I do let go the left mouse button, let go the Shift key. Back to here, pick my point, click and drag up, add the Shift key. Make sure I line everything up really neatly. Let go of the left mouse button, let go of the Shift key. This is a really good exercise to do to practice with the pen tool. It's nice and easy to do, and it'll get you in the swing of making these lovely loops. Just going to make one more, and then I'll finish. And of course, finishing means we have to turn off this rubber band thing. So you can just simply press the Escape key and that will finish your line. The selection tool is what we use to select an entire line. So that's going to select every point on the line, and you can move the line. This tool, the direct selection tool, it's a white arrow. We use it to select an individual anchor point. So there's an anchor point here. When I select it, you'll see that it's blue and filled, or it's filled with color depending on what color the layer is that you're working on. They have colors for these handles and things, so it'll be filled with that color. And these are hollow, so they're not selected. This one is selected. Of course, you can select multiples. Just dragged over, this one's selected because they're both filled. These are not selected because they're not filled. Okay. Now it's also possible using the pen tool to make a circle, or at least an oval. Let's have a look and see how we do that. Go and get the pen tool, and you're going to click and drag downwards, add the Shift key so that you're going perfectly vertical. I'm going to let go the left mouse button, let go the Shift key. And we've got this rubber band effect happening exactly as we had it happening up here. So we're going to go and pick a point immediately opposite the starting point. Click and drag upwards. Hold the shift key so that you're going in a perfectly vertical direction here. Make sure the two anchor points at the bottom there are lining up pretty much with each other. Let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key. Now previously when we drew this shape here, we came over here to create the next loop. This time we're going to go all the way over here to create the next loop. So you're going to hover over this until you get that little O in the bottom right corner of your pen tool. Click and drag downwards and then hold the shift key so that you're going in a perfectly vertical direction, and make sure that those two handles at the bottom and the top pretty much line up with each other. Let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key. And what you have is an oval, and if you got really good at this, you could actually create a circle. Now interestingly, that has 2 less anchor points than the circles that Illustrator would create for you. This one only has 2 anchor points at either side. If we were to get Illustrator to draw an ellipse, an oval or a circle, it's going to have 4 anchor points. It's got one here, one here, one here, and one here. So we're able to do it just a little bit more efficiently by doing it ourselves by hand. Now this loopy line is a nice starting point to learn to use the pen tool in Illustrator, but we could also do a loopy line that's sort of like a series of loops on the letter M. That's a little bit more advanced, so let's see how we do that. We'll go back to the pen tool. This time we're going to click and drag in an upwards direction, but we are going to also bring in the shift key because we want it to go perfectly vertical. Shift and drag. Let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key. We want to come down here to start the first of our curves. So line it all up nicely, click and drag, add the shift key and just move it so that these two handles at the end, the dots, are pretty much in alignment. Let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key. Now the problem is at this point that we're about to make a lower loop, but what we want to do is make a loop up here. So to do that we have to move this handle, all the way up here. The way we do that is while we've still got this rubber band happening and the pen tool paying attention to us, we're going to hold down the Alt key on a PC, that's Option on a Mac. And now we get this sort of V indicator, and that lets us go and pick up this handle, and we're going to swing it all the way up here and let go. Now the pen tool is still enabled, you can see it up here, and what's happened is we've just swung that handle in the opposite direction. Now we can make this next loop. We'll line it up here. You're going to line up the base point here of the loop. Click and drag downwards because that's the direction we want to go. Add the shift key. Make sure the handles are pretty much in alignment with each other. Let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key. Same problem here. But we know what to do. We're going to hold down the Alt or Option key so we get this little V indicator. Swing it around, line it up perfectly, let go the left mouse button, let go the Alt or Option key. Go and make our next loop. Let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key. Hold down the Alt or Option key so we can swing this handle around. Line it all up perfectly, let go the left mouse button, let go the Alt or Option key, and make our next loop. Click and drag downwards, adding the shift key. Let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key. Hold down Alt or Option, swing this around, and make our last loop. To finish off, you can just press the Escape key. So that's another good exercise for learning to use the pen tool. It's a nice even set of loops, and it's good practice for using the Alt or Option key while you're drawing a line to actually adjust the handles. Let's have a look at next at how we draw a sort of S shape. So let's go to the pen tool, and when you're drawing an S shape like this, you want to think about which direction you're going to head first of all. So we're going to head towards the left. I'm going to click and drag, this time to the left, hold the shift key, let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key. Now we're going to come round with our loop and head back in this direction, which is pretty much this shape on its side. So we already know how to make this curve. We're just going to make it on the side this time. So we're going to line this up with this point here. I'll hold the left mouse button and drag to the right, add the shift key to get this smooth curve. Now you may not want an even loop. You can decide how much of a loop you want. I'm going to do less than an even loop, so you can see that my loop has this sort of slightly different shape to it. It's not perfectly curved like this, but that's fine. You can still make it using the shift key. You just won't make this handle the exact same length as this handle. Let's go back and do the last loop, which is going to be down here. So we're going to pick up this point here. Click and drag, add the shift key, work out just how much of a loop you want. Let go the left mouse button, let go the shift key, press escape. Now if you wanted this to look a bit more like the letter S, you could move this anchor point so it's not immediately after the starting point. Now if we want to draw something that looks a little bit less like these loops and a little bit more like the letter S, you might find it easy to draw a letter S to use as a reference. So I'm going down to the type tool here, just going to click and type the letter S. I'm going to drag it so it's nice and big. I'm just going to drag it out of its ideal proportions because I just want this loop. I want to see what this loop is going to look like. So that's a pretty good letter S. Let's just fill it with a grey rather than a black so we can see things on top of it. I'm going to the layers panel here and I'm just going to lock that down so it doesn't move. So I'm just going to click here opposite the letter S so it's locked down. It's going to make it a little bit easier for me to draw on top of it. So we want to have a stroke on our line and no fill. The line set up as it was previously. Let's start at this point because you have to start at the beginning of a loop and end at the end of it. So we have to start here. We don't get a choice. Let's click and drag. So this time I'm not going to hold the shift key because I want to go off at an angle and I'm going to let this letter S dictate to me what that angle is going to be. So I'm headed pretty much in the direction that this line was going in. I want to do this letter S in 3 anchor points. So I've got one here, I'm going to have one here, and I'm going to have one down here. So let's click and drag to get this one. Click and head off in the direction we want to head off in. And I'm just going to make sure my loop looks pretty good. You'll see that I'm not dragging a really long way because I don't want a really big loop there. I just want it to be pretty much in the middle of this letter S. So it's looking pretty good there. I'll let go. Now let's come down to the end here. Click and drag and just see if I can make this end loop fairly accurately. When I'm done, let go the left mouse button, press escape, and we can just check out our line. Now it's only got a very, very small stroke on it, so let's increase the stroke weight. This is a really good idea for developing your pen tool skills, is to lay down a letter like the letter S and build up that curve. Now I'm not totally happy with this middle anchor point. You can see it comes down a little bit and across. Let's see what happens when we select it. Well, when we select it, we get its handles, and so we can actually adjust those handles a little bit. So I could adjust them to make it just a little bit smoother. Now, adjusting to make the middle smoother might make the end not work quite so well. So let's go and click that line and let's bring that up a little bit so it's a little bit more inside this letter S, and maybe adjust the starting point as well. Now you may not get a perfect shape here with just 3 anchor points, but try and get as good a shape as you can. This is all really good and really straightforward practice with the pen tool and with adjusting anchor points just to get nice smooth curves. Now sometimes you'll create a line and you'll want to turn it into a curve. So let's go to the pen tool. When we just click with the pen tool, we make straight lines. Let me just undo that. I'm going to make a single line. Just click and click again. I'll press escape because it works exactly the same way to finish off a line, whether it's straight or curved. Now with this line, if we thought about it later on and wanted it to be more curved, we could make it more curved, except that there are no handles on either end of this line. When I click on either end of this line, there are no handles. But we can add handles. You can add handles using this little tool up here, which will convert the selected anchor point to smooth. So let's select our anchor point, just this one, and click here. And now we've got handles. And we can just adjust those to make our curve. And you could do the same on this end too. Let's go and make another curved line, and let's have a look and see what will happen when we don't want the handles to work together. So let's just select this portion of the line here. Let me just zoom into it so you can see it a bit more clearly. Okay, when I select on this anchor point, you'll see that it has two handles, but these work like a teeter-totter. So when I drag up with one, the other one goes down, and when I drag up with this, the other one goes down. Well, what if I don't want that to happen? If I want to break this sort of teeter-totter behavior that this line has? Well, you can do that, and not unsurprisingly, you do it with the Alt or Option key. The same tool that we used to break the line as we were drawing them, we can use it to break this teeter-totter behavior once we have drawn the line. So I'm going to press the Alt or Option key, and you can see I get this little plus sign. That's telling me I'm about to break this handle. Now, if you get this, let me just show you a different one. If you get two double arrows here, let go, because this double arrow is about to make a duplicate of the line. You can see I've just made a duplicate of the line at that point. That's really dangerous territory to be in. What you want to do is you want to not have this handle selected, press the Alt or Option key, get the little mouse pointer that is a white arrow with a plus sign, then you're safe. You're not about to duplicate it, you're about to break the handle. And you're going to grab the handle and just move it. Now once these handles have been broken, the link, the teeter-totter link between them has been broken, you can't put it back together again. They're not going to behave as a teeter-totter again. So this one's going to behave independently of this one. And that's just the way it happens. So if you need to adjust it now, you can adjust either end of it. Anything else on this line is still going to be a teeter-totter. This is a teeter-totter. They're not broken, they're attached to each other. This one here is attached. So moving one moves the other one. You can adjust the length of these, so the lengths are independent, but the teeter-totter behavior continues. The only way you can break the teeter-totter behavior, hold down the Alt or Option key till you see this mouse pointer, and then you can break it. Okay, let's have a look at another feature of the pen tool which is important to understand. I'm going to make a four-sided figure of some sort, and I'm just going to click. So click, 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 click. Hover over the beginning until I see that little 0 or O just in the bottom right corner of my mouse pointer. That's telling me I'm back over the start of the line. Click once and it's joined up. So I've got a four-sided figure with 4 anchor points. Okay. If I want to remove one of these anchor points, there's only one way to do it, and it may not be the way that you think. So let me just go and select this anchor point here. This one's selected, none of these others are selected, so they're all hollow. This one is filled. If I press the delete key right now, look what happens. What happens is that I delete that anchor point, but I also break open my shape. So now my shape has 3 anchor points, but it's not a closed shape. It doesn't have a line across here. Let me just undo that. The correct way to remove an anchor point, if you expect what happens when you do it to have this shape close up into a triangle rather than a four-sided figure, is to go over here to the pen tool and select the delete anchor point tool. This works very differently. When I click on this anchor point, I delete it, but you can see that the other anchor points remain in position and it remains as a closed shape. So if you want to delete an anchor point but still have your line in place and not broken, then you're going to need to use the pen tool, delete anchor point, rather than just select a point and delete it. Before we finish up, let's have a look at a special case, and that is a heart shape. And the reason why we're looking at this heart shape is because of the end of the shape. So let's go to the pen tool. I'm going to start about here with the middle point of my heart. I'm going to go around, down here, and back up. So I'll click and drag to start my shape, and I'm going to head up in this sort of direction here. I'm going to swing back round, and I'm going to put my bottom point immediately underneath my top point. So I'm just going to look for that smart guide there. So I'll click and drag. So that's making the first loop of my heart. Now, of course, we need to swing around in the opposite direction. So that requires us to hold down the Alt or Option key and swing this handle here all the way up so it matches the handle on the opposite side. So I'm just trying to line those up pretty well with each other. Now when I come back to this point, this is where an accident is about to happen. I'm going to click here at this point and drag to finish off my heart. And this is what happens. I lose my shape entirely. Let's just undo that. Instead of clicking and dragging at this point and ending up with a teeter-totter handle that is not working the way I want it to, this is what I'm going to do. As I come into this point, I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key and then drag. And this time I'm able to create this matching handle that has a direction that it's going in the right direction and not in the wrong direction. So those two handles are not operating as a teeter-totter any longer. They're actually independent of each other. And so what we've done is actually broken that handle behavior as we've closed up the shape. So if ever you find that you need to finish off a shape in an opposite direction to the way that you started it, just hold the Alt or Option key so that you can break the handles and make the shape that you want to make, not the shape that Illustrator intends on making you make. So that's a basic introduction to the pen tool in Illustrator, and there's plenty here for you to practice. Make this curve line, which is the simplest of them all. You could make your square or your rectangle or four-sided shape and then remove one of the anchor points using the minus anchor point tool here, this delete anchor point tool. Draw a letter S. You can do it on top of a type character, or you could just draw the letter S. And draw these shapes, which of course are more difficult because at the bottom point here, when you draw it, you're going to have to swing that handle around to go in the opposite direction. Practice making lines like this and then finish up with something like the heart shape. By the time you finish that, you should have a really good handle on how to use the pen tool in Illustrator. I hope this video has been of help to you. Please, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be alerted when new videos are released. Until next time, my name's Helen Bradley. Thank you so much for joining me here on my YouTube channel.